Hey, Andrea-san.
Yes.
I'm curious, what's your favorite murder mystery from any format of media? Like TV show, books, film?
Ooh, that's a hard question because I really like true crime and murder mystery, and I have a lot of favorites. I can't just pick one. Well, actually, I can. So when I was young, I liked reading Nancy Drew books, which are kind of young adult novels.
Okay.
Agatha Christie was also a favorite when I was younger.
Yes.
She also writes murder mysteries fiction for adults.
She's famous.
Yeah, she's very famous. And a couple of her books have been made into movies.
Yes.
I really like there's about 4 or 5 true crime podcasts that I listen to, like in rotation.
Four true crime podcasts.
There's at least 4 or 5. Yeah, there might be more. I listen in rotation, because they don't have new episodes like every day.
Every day.
Yeah, so I listen to one every day on the way to work, but then I have to wait a week until the next one. So I have another standby program.
Okay.
But actually, my absolute favorite, I would say TV series. It's not really murder mystery. It's more like detective drama. My absolute favorite is a program called CSI.
CSI, yes.
Crime Scene Investigation. A little bit old.
It's very popular.
Yeah. I can't watch it now. It's not on Netflix or Amazon. It is on Hulu. So I'm thinking about subscribing to Hulu so I can watch more.
マジかガチのmurder mystery and true crime fan ね。
Yes. Yes.
Well, I was going to talk about a murder mystery. It's a kind of mysterious and sad story. But while making an outline for this episode, I kind of noticed some kind of cultural differences.
Okay, yeah, there probably are many. There are many cultural differences.
Yeah, so I want to talk about the content popularity in real life horror versus supernatural horror.
Okay.
It might be too obvious for you, but I found murder mystery is not really popular in Japan.
No, it's not really. But I wonder, why not? It's so interesting. Why not?
That's what we're going to talk about today.
All right.
Let's jump right in.
Okay. Hey, everybody. CrossTalk FM is an English and Japanese bilingual freestyle podcast. In this podcast, we explore some cross-cultural themes and trends. I'm Andrea.
Hi, I'm Tomoya. このポッドキャストは英会話スクール&カフェを運営しているトモヤとアンドレアが毎週自分たちの周りで起きたことや海外のニュースについて英語と日本語でカジュアルに話しているポッドキャストです。OK、アンドレアさん、実は今回のアウトライン、台本のね、書くときに実はちょっと紆余曲折あったんですね。で、それは何かっていうと、Do you remember Elise Lam case?
I do, actually. I do remember the case. Yeah.
そう、これアメリカで起こった実際にあったことなんですけども、エリサ・ラムっていう、中国系カナダ人だったかな
Yes, that's right.
人についての事件があったんですけども、ちょっとアンドレアさん、そのあらすじみたいなところを簡単に紹介してもらえますかね。
Just briefly, as Tomoya mentioned, Elisa Lam was a Canadian young lady. Her parents were of Chinese descent, and she was a student. She vanished while she was traveling solo to Los Angeles. This happened back in 2013. So she went to Los Angeles by herself, and she stayed at a hotel called the Cecil Hotel. Now, the Cecil Hotel is in a very rough, very bad area of LA. Surveillance footage, which there wasn't a lot of footage in the hotel, like the security cameras, but the surveillance camera showed her behaving very strangely while she was in the hotel. So like when she would ride the elevator, she would press all the buttons, or be pretending to, or look like she was talking to someone, look like she was kind of trying to run away from someone. And then she kind of suddenly disappeared and no one could contact her. And it was found that her body was gone. They couldn't find her body. They couldn't find her anywhere. Her body was found in the hotel rooftop water tank about 2 weeks later. And so no one knows how she got into the water tank. Was she put there by someone? Did she climb in by herself? No one knows. So the circumstances around her death remain unsolved, and it's still an ongoing mystery. If you want to know more about this case, Netflix has a very good series called the Cecil Hotel.
I think so, yes.
It's very interesting, actually.
So this was my first idea for today's episode.
To talk about Elisa Lam?
For whole episode.
Oh, okay.
But,
I think we did an episode on her, not on her, but on this Netflix series quite a long time ago.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe.
I think we did. I think we mentioned it, yeah.
Yeah. But I realized, is it okay to talk about someone dead in an accident?
I don't see why not. Is there like a taboo in Japan for talking about like dead people or people who died in accidents?
It's not taboo, but it's kind of disrespectful for these people.
Okay, this is interesting. I don't really feel Americans think that way.
Yeah, that's what I felt while I'm making this outline.
Yeah, I don't feel, that Americans would find it disrespectful so much as we want to help solve the mystery or we want to help solve the accident.
そうだからやっぱりここにカルチャーディファレンス、カルチャーの文化の違いがあって、やっぱり日本人、僕はそういうふうに考えてしまったらね、死んでしまった人を題材にして。ワイワイではないけど。
Yeah, not why, but getting like very into it, I would say.
でも僕はそういうやっぱ日本人の文化が部分があるから、そう思ってるなっていうのをなんか客観的に分かるのね。
Yes, okay.
But this kind of story is very popular in the USA.
Yes, it is. And actually, a lot of the podcasts I listen to, it's like unsolved mysteries kind of thing, or like people that have gone missing and they don't know what happened. Like kind of like this case, they don't know what happened to her. And if you as the listener or you as the viewer, if you know of anything, call our hotline kind of thing. So for Americans, it's more like kind of giving information and then, hey, if there's anybody out there who knows, let's solve this mystery together. It's more of like working together to solve the actual mystery. It's not really disrespectful. But in Japan, I'm curious because, for example, I feel that a lot of ghost stories kind of hinge on that fact of like, the person died in an accident. They weren't ready to die. They don't understand that they're dead yet. And so they come back as a ghost.
Right.
It's a kind of a folklore belief or a superstitious belief, right?
So I checked the podcast platform. How many of this kind of modern mystery and true crime podcasts are there?
Okay.
There's many, unsolved mystery, as you said, podcast episode on platform, on the platform.
Yeah.
But not many Japanese podcasts does the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Like mostly they talk about, as you said, folklore or 怖い話, 怪談.
Yeah, there is actually one and it's a podcast about Japanese folklore and Japanese ghost stories, but it's in English. I forgot the name of the podcast. I'll have to look it up. Maybe we can put it in the show notes. But there's an English-speaking person, and they made their own English podcast, English language podcast, but it's based on Japanese stories.
And I only see a few horror podcasts on American podcast platform.
Horror, yeah, we're not really so much into horror as much as like horror would be like more for movies and TV series. For podcasts, it tends to be more true crime. Yeah. That's probably true.
Yeah, so that's as I said, that's what we're going to talk about today, and why murder and mystery is not popular in Japan.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting topic for me.
Yes. So, Andrea-san, can you give us a brief explanation of what is murder mystery genre itself?
Oh,
murder
that's
mystery
kind of a hard one because there's two, in my opinion, there's like two different groups. There's the fiction, like Agatha Christie and other writers who write like fictional stories. And then we have the true crime murder mystery. Yes. So in my mind, there's like two different subgroups of murder mystery.
Yes.
So within like the fictional group, you have writers like Agatha Christie, who is known as like the queen of mystery writing.
Agatha Christie.
And I think last year one of her books was made 3 years ago, made into a movie called Murder on the Orient Express, Murder on the Nile.
Yes.
These are like really famous writings by her that have been made into movies.
But these are fake stories.
Yeah, these are fake stories. These are fictional stories. They're not even based in reality. It's all in her mind, right?
Okay.
You have Arthur Conan Doyle, who a lot of our listeners will know as Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is the character created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And there's a lot of movies and series based on the Sherlock Holmes series.
Yes.
Raymond Chandler is another fictional writer. I haven't read his work, but he's very famous. His most famous book is called The Big Sleep. It's more of like a detective, not really murder so much as detective genre.
Yeah.
And then like more of a modern writer would be Sue Grafton. Sue Grafton has an alphabet series. So starting with A, like A is for alibi, B is for burglar. This kind of like ABC in her title. So it's kind of cute. She's like ongoing, like currently writing now.
Okay.
And then like with the true crime, for example, not so much books, but you have podcasts and TV series for true crime. One of the most famous true crime series in America that's long running, it's a TV program called Dateline.
Dateline, okay.
And Dateline shows, I think, Friday nights. It's been going on for like 20 or 30 years. My mom used to watch Dateline, and now I don't watch it, but I listen to their podcast.
Okay. They have a podcast now.
Yeah, basically the podcast is just the TV shows, and it's just audio, no visual.
Okay, I see.
So they'll say like on the podcast, you can see here a map of the area, but there's nothing to see, right? Because it's a podcast. So, yeah.
今の並べてくれた言ってくれたタイトルはまあフィクション。
Yes.
偽物その想像した話ですけども。
Yes, except for Dateline. Yeah.
Okay. 実際にはアメリカではそのノンフィクション、リアルストーリーに基づいたマーダーミステリーとか、まあトゥークライムはまあ本当にあった事件のことだけど、
Yes.
っていうものがありますよね。
I'm sure there are some, yeah.
まあさっき言ったエリサラムもまあちょっと違うけど、まあその中の一つと考えられるかもしれないけど、例えば他にあるとしたら、まあ例えばジョン・ベネット。
Oh yeah, John Benet Ramsey. Yeah, so she was a little girl who was murdered, and they found her body, I think, in the basement of the house. And they don't know who. No. Was she was abducted, and they didn't find her body.
Oh yeah, that's.
She was a young child who, like, her parents put her in beauty pageants. So she was pretty famous from being in these beauty pageants. And then she disappeared, and they don't know what happened to her.
Right.
And that's ongoing. But like the true crime, they don't write books about them because it hasn't been solved yet. And so there's no resolution. So these tend to be like stories that we tell, but also like on TV and podcasts. People will talk about like what they think might have happened based on the evidence. Like we think maybe the father did it, or we think maybe this person did it. Kind of
そう
thing.
ね。
Yeah.
とかまあ他にもあるんだと思うんですけども。
Yeah.
まあ
Yeah. One of the more famous ones is the O.J. Simpson case.
Oh, yeah.
So Japanese listeners might know this too because it's fairly recent. So O.J. Simpson was a very famous, was he a football player?
I think so, yes.
And he basically murdered his wife and her lover, and he said he didn't do it. And so he was taken to court. This is back in the 80s, I think.
Oh, so now.
The 80s or early 90s. Maybe the early 90s. I don't remember exactly. But they showed the whole court proceedings, which are really long and boring, live on TV. But they couldn't reach a conclusion based on the evidence, whether he did it or not. And so he wasn't really convicted. But everyone kind of knows he did it. But there's no evidence to prove that he did it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
まあそういうリアルトゥルークライムとかも人気なんですけども、まあこういったまあそのフィクションの方はまあ日本でも人気あるけど、ノンフィクションのリアルライフホラーズ、まあトゥルークライムとかいったね、そういうジャンルっていうのは日本ではあんまり人気じゃないなっていうのをなんでだろうなっていうのをちょっとまあチャット GPT に聞きまして。
I have to tell you guys, Tomoya relies on Chat GPT for almost everything.
Right.
Okay, but what did you find out? That's what I want to know.
まあその一つ目としては日本人はその死者に対するリスペクトがある。
Okay.
Respect for the dead.
Okay. I'm not saying Americans don't, but it's a little bit different.
やっぱそれはその仏教の神道とかのなんかカルチャーがやっぱそういう風にあるからなんじゃないかと。で今収録してるのは夏の時期なんですけども、これからお盆が来ますよね。やっぱそのお盆は死者の人をリスペクトするお祭りみたいなもんですよね。
Yes, that's true. We don't have a matsuri per se, or we don't have that kind of ceremony with the dead in America. But we also show respect, just in a different way. We show respect in a different way. Of course. So I want to just point out we do respect our dead too, just differently.
アメリカ人がその死んだ人を尊敬してないよねってことはない、ね。ない。もちろんそれはない。
ちゃんとやりますよ。
それは違うやり方だよね。で、I was curious about, this is kind of off the topic. I was kind of wanted to know how to explain Obon to foreigners.
Okay, well, even Americans, like we don't have the same kind of thing. However, Mexico does.
Yes, I know that.
And Americans understand somewhat, about Mexican culture. So you can compare it to the Mexican, they call it Day of the Dead.
Yeah, 死者の日ね。
Yeah, it's very similar to that, except in Mexico, it's even bigger and more like a festival with lots of people dancing and eating good food and great costumes, and it's more like a festival.
なんかまあ四国の徳島のこの何だったっけ阿波踊りみたいな感じの日だよね。
A little bit different. Is 阿波踊り related to Obon?
どうでしょう。
I thought it was just a traditional summer festival.
だと思います。Sorry, 関係なかったですね。で、お盆ってじゃあどうやって英語で外国人に説明するかってちょっと面白い言いましょう。見つけたんです。ちょっと紹介させてください。
Okay.
お盆 is a family reunion, but with spirits.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
これまあめちゃめちゃシンプルだけどわかりやすい。
Yeah, that is easy to understand. And it is that way, actually.
でなんかそのちょっとなんだろう、ちょっとなんかこれ皮肉っぽいような
I don't think so.
ニュアンスもないっていうか、
No, I don't think so.
なんかちょっと簡単すぎるからなんかニュアンスを間違えてるかなっていうね。
Oh no, it's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
まあちょっと面白いっていうかそのすげえシンプルな言い方だなと思ったんで。
I like that. It's very accurate but cute also.
Yeah. Okay, going back to the main topic.
Yeah.
So I also found the reason why we don't have so much murder mystery episodes on the internet is historical influence.
Okay.
そう日本ってさっきアンドレさんが冒頭に言ったように、例えばお岩さんとかそのなんかお皿が1枚2枚3枚で。Do you know this story?
Yes.
So this story is super old.
Okay.
Really old.
Okay.
Maybe it's one of the oldest horror story in Japan.
Okay.
アメリカにはこういうなんか長く続いてるホラーストーリーはあんまりない
ね。確かにあんまりないね。
っていう意味で、ヒストリーがちょっと短い。アメリカはね、そういう
Yes, that's
昔
true.
古い怖い話のストーリーが少ない。
Yes, that's true.
So that I didn't mean to say Japan has a longer history.
Well, I mean, technically you do. I'm just giving you a hard time. But technically, yes, Japan has a much longer history than America in general. But also, yeah, with this kind of superstitious or like the horror history, yeah, you do have a longer history than we do.
で、多分いっぱいそういうお化けとか日本いっぱいあるじゃないですか。
Yes.
お化けカルチャー。
Yes.
多分
お化け
お化けカルチャーね。
Yes.
でもアメリカにお化けいないよね。
いますよ。We have ghosts.
I mean,
Not お化け per se, but we do have ghosts.
But a ghost is 妖怪. I was meant to say 妖怪.
We don't really do 妖怪 culture. Yeah.
妖怪はいないね。
妖怪はないね。お化けはないね。
Like a spooky
はいるね
ghost like this. この白いシーツをかぶったようなお化けっていうのはゴーストじゃないですか。
Well,
そのイメージ。
doesn't necessarily have to be covered with a white sheet. Like it can appear as a regular human.
そうでも日本の妖怪とかお化けっていうといろんなパターンとかバリエーションがあるよね。それ
Yeah,
は
it's very creative actually. And when my children were young, I think on TV there was a TV series. What is it called?
ゲゲゲの鬼太郎
Yeah, Kitaro. Gege no Kitaro. That was it was shown for a short time on TV, and then we went to visit Sakai Minato
Oh yes.
and saw that's up in where Totori.
鳥取
Yeah, we went to Sakai Minato a couple of times actually, and saw like the yokai statues in the yokai museum. It's actually really creative.
そうやっぱ日本はそういう妖怪まあお化けカルチャーっていうのは結構日本人の DNA にね
DNA
入ってるよね。でもアメリカの例えばその一番古い怖い話だったら僕が思い出すのはゴーストバスター。
That's from like the 1980s. That's not that old.
Ghostbusters.
You forgot the who you gonna call. Who you gonna call?
Who you gonna...
Ghostbusters. Actually, we do have longer. We have older ghost stories than that. But yeah, that's a very famous fictional story. Yeah.
So,
we don't have obake per se, but we have monsters.
Monster.
So like especially back in the 50s, like monster creature, lots of creature based monsters, like Creature from the Black Lagoon or The Fly, which is like half a fly, half a man. Kind of creatures that are not obake, but they're not human either. Like animals, like half animal, half man kind of thing. Yeah.
やっぱアメリカはそういうのが多いよね。クリーチャー。
Creature katachi, creature系の
やつが
or aliens. We like aliens and zombies. Yeah, we don't really have obake or yokai, but we have creatures.
ですよね。やっぱそこが日本、そのやっぱマーダーミステリーとかトゥルークライムが少ない一つの理由になっているんじゃないかなと思うわけ。
Okay, that's interesting.
And as you say, interest in solving problems.
Yeah, so like with me, I don't mind like the blood and the gory stuff so much. It's more the thrill of solving a mystery or solving a problem. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. It's like a puzzle, you know.
パズルをね、
Yeah.
と感じで、まあ、そういう要素は僕も思うね。やっぱマーダーミステリーとかそういうね、見て聞いたりすると。でこれが一つ納得する一つの理由が一個あったんですけど、やっぱアメリカはそのリアルなホラーがまあ身近にあるから。In America,
yeah, and especially recently, but yes.
So they have guns and firearms.
That's like really, really, I mean, yes, we do, but it's been really, really bad recently. But even traditionally, yeah, like that's something that's a lot closer to Americans than it is to, Japanese or Australians or Singaporeans, for example.
そうね。
Yeah.
だから身近に感じる危険っていうのが、日本人よりはアメリカ人の方があるよね。
Yes, probably.
日本ではそういうのってあまり聞かないというか、テレビで見るね、ことはあるけど。
I mean, you do, but it's not like every day. In America, it's literally every day nowadays. It's literally once or twice a day. There was something that happened in Japan recently, though, just a few days ago.
Yes, it happened.
Yeah, but like that's like not every day. Again, that's once in a very long while.
そうね。From these reasons, when we heard horror, we imagine like a ghost or yokai,
Okay.
怪談, horror stories.
Okay.
But maybe when you heard a word horror, maybe you imagined something different.
Yeah, like the Ted Manson murders or the Amityville horrors where, someone comes into your house and murders your whole family. That's what I think of when I think of horror.
そうなんだ。
They're completely different. Yeah.
そうだから日本で今夏は日本ではホラーストーリーのシーズンなんだけど。
Yeah, which I can never understand when I first got. I'm like, why would you tell ghost stories in the summer? What's the point? Why?
やっぱ日本人はホラーとか怖い話っていうそういうイメージをしちゃうんだよね。だから怖い話っていうとやっぱりその貞子がわーっと出てくるとか、
Okay.
なんかリングが井戸からビャーンって出てくるとかそういうなんかもうびっくりとか怖いっていうのでちょっとやっぱりそもそものイメージがねスタートポイントが違うんだなっていうのを実は今回ね見つけちゃったよみたいな。
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
でも僕そのアメリカというか海外かぶれなんでわかる？ホラーと聞いたらおマーダーミステリーかって
どっちか
思っちゃうんだけど思うようにしてるんだけどまあね、そういうカルチャルディファレンスがありますよっていうお話でした。
Okay, someone told me you never addressed the question, why do Japanese people tell scary stories or spooky stories in the summer? Someone told me it's so because it's so hot here. It's so hot here. When you hear a ghost story or a horror story, you feel chilly. And then you don't feel so hot. That's the reason I was told. But I also kind of wonder if it's related to Obon. Because Obon is during this very hot summer season too.
Actually, I also researched that.
Oh,
too.
okay.
So 実はそのなんで日本ではそういうね、怖い話を夏にするのかっていうのも調べたんです。アンドレアさんの言うように僕も聞いたことあるけどやっぱその暑いからその涼しくなるために怖い話を聞くっていうのがそうなんだよって言うけど実はそれは違うらしくて。
Oh, okay. Good to know. What's the real reason?
その英語は難しいから僕は日本語で説明するけど簡単になるべく簡単に言うと、
okay.
そのどこかの大学の先生がその論文っていうかその研究結果みたいなのを簡単に出してたんですが、実はその日本の夏といえばお盆ってそのご先祖様が帰ってくると。でその帰ってくる時にいいそのゴーストも悪いゴーストも一緒に帰ってくると。それだからその悪いゴーストをなんかその来ないでくださいとかそういう風なするためにその歌舞伎の夏の怪談芝居をしてそれをなんかこう見てもらってちゃんと成仏して帰ってくださいみたいな。
Oh, interesting.
Okay. 悪い霊は来ないでくださいみたいな。
Oh, interesting. Okay, that makes so much more sense. Culturally and historically.
そう
That's
だから
interesting.
盆狂言っていう風に言われて、随分古い時代からやられているみたいですね。それが鎮魂の芸能っていう風にね。
鎮魂の芸能？
鎮魂ですね。
What's the kanji for 鎮魂? What does it mean?
レクイエムとかね。レクイエム。
Requiem. Oh, okay.
はい。
Ooh.
Purify the soul. 違うか。
Okay, and it's 狂言。Okay.
レクイエムだね。はい。
Interesting.
狂言、盆狂言。そういう伝統があったそうです。あるそうです。
I didn't know. I never heard of 盆狂言。
Me neither.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
はい。ちょっと僕は簡単に調べただけなんで、間違ってたらすいませんということで。はい。ということがあるそうですよ。
Okay. I'm gonna do some more research. I'm very curious now about that.
いや、僕もやっぱ日本人がこう寒くなるためにそういう怖い話してたと思ったけど、ちょっと違うみたいね。
全然違うね。やっぱり盆とかで関係あるよね。I guessed it had to do with a bond, and I was kind of right, but I didn't know the deeper meaning or the deeper reason. Okay.
そうね。
I think in America we tend to tell scary stories, like horror stories, around October.
Yes.
Because they've kind of connected it with Halloween, and Halloween is kind of seen as the old, like in England and Ireland, like the Celtic people before England was England.The Celtic people celebrated the changing of the seasons, and that was when like winter was coming. And originally Halloween was they'd go around and collect vegetables and food for the winter, not candy and snacks. That's very American. But they also believed that like spirits came out at night. And so in order to chase off the bad spirits, they would carry a pumpkin lantern. It wasn't even a pumpkin, it was actually a turnip.Which is what in Japanese, like a kind of kabu.
Kabu?
Kabu.
わかんない。
カブで提灯を作って、それを悪い霊をこう払っちゃって。So they would go around at nighttime and collect like, potatoes and carrots and onions from their neighbors for the winter. And then they would scare the bad spirits off. So that was the original Halloween. But then for some reason, like when Halloween came to America,It completely changed into a different holiday, different celebration. But we still tell scary stories and horror stories to kind of, connect with that original, like, pagan religion, I guess.
アメリカでもホラーストーリーってなんかいろいろジャンルがあって、実は。
Yes.
例えば、スプラッターホラーもあるし、なんかティピカルフォルクホラーストーリーもあるし、サイコロジーじゃないか。
Psychological thriller.
Psychological thriller.
That's my favorite kind. That's how I know the English, because that's my favorite kind.
だからでもそこが多分一番人気があるのね。アメリカでね。Psychological horror, like a Shining.
Yeah, but also like splatter is very popular, which is usually nonfiction. That's also very popular, like Chucky and Cujo and these kind of movies and stories.
Chucky ね。で日本もやっぱサイコロジカルホラーが人気なんだよね。人気だったって言った方がいいかな。
Oh, really?
Like a Sadako and Ring.
Okay.
These are psychologically you feel scared.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
They're kind of different though, because like psychological thrillers, it's the not the victim, not the person listening, it's the person doing the bad thing that's like crazy or has a psychological problem.
なるほどね。
That's why it's called a psychological thriller, because you have to understand how the person is thinking in order to solve the crime, because they're not normal.
なるほど。
So, for example, like with The Shining,the main character, his name is Jack, right? He kind of went crazy from being so isolated. And then he committed all these crimes and he was delusional. He was seeing things that weren't there. So that's where the psychological comes in. It's him going crazy and committing crimes.
そうね。僕は思ったのは、例えば貞子とどっちやったっけな、貞子かリンクかどっちか忘れたけど、7日間ビデオを誰かに見せないとあなたが死んじゃうよみたいな。Do you remember?
I think that was Ring. Yeah.
So it's kind of like a psychological. It's not like a mentally you feel scared because you had to take action to save your life.
Okay.
So why you during these 7 days you feel?
Yeah. I still
scared.
don't know if I'd call it a psychological film, but maybe. There's always crossover too.
まあね。
There's crossover. It doesn't have to be only one kind. It can be several kinds. So.
そうね。で、ちなみにアンドレさんに最初聞いたそのマーダーミステリー、トゥークライムってそのサブジャンルって言ってましたよね。そのなんかデテクティブ探偵ものっていうのが一つ。
あれも好き。
一つ大きなジャンルであって、
あれも大好き。
確かその。
That's a CSI. That's what CSI falls into. I think.
そう。まあそこからその発生したサブジャンルっていうのが、True Crime とかまあいろいろあるわけですね。
Yeah.
なのでそのさっき言ったエリサ・ラムって実はまあ普通に自分で事故に遭っちゃっただけなんだけど。
They think. They don't know for sure. They suspect, but no one really knows for sure. It's still a mystery.
まあね、でもそこだけの事実を言うとまだそのマーダーではないから。
だろうかなって。They don't know 100% though.
まあマーダーミステリーには入らないけど、まあミステリーの部分がかなり大きいから、かなり大きいよね。まあだからその今回話そうかなと思ったんだけど、まあちょっとそういった経緯で。
Okay, but we got into a much deeper topic, so it worked out well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have talked about many deeper things about this kind of phenomenon.
Yeah, I would be curious to know if any of our listeners also enjoy like scary stories, horror, murder mysteries, or detective stories. Like, what do you guys like? I love detective stories. I love true crime. Not so much into just horror for pure horror. I'm not really into horror. But I like, true crime and psychological crime. But how about our listeners? What do you guys like?
I also want to know what's your opinion on real life murder mystery content.
Yeah.
Do you find it too cruel or do you prefer Japanese horror stories like obake kaidan story?
Okay, maybe both could be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know what you guys think. Share your opinions with us. All right, shall we wrap it up?
Yep.
All right, that's all for this episode. But if you like our podcast, be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening right now. Also, please comment, give us your opinion on murder mysteries, Japanese style horror, whatever you like. And also review us if you can. Your review helps other listeners find our podcast.
And if you're tuning through the podcast, check our YouTube channel. We just started a new series called After Show. It's a bit more casual and it's a bit more personal and maybe just a bit more fun. And I just come up with this idea.
Yeah.
Why don't we name our podcast After Show NER? NER, non-English related.
Okay, no, I like that. We could be nerds. Nerds.
It's
nerds. We need to find a D.
Word.
You need a D on there somewhere. Non-related, non-English related
episode.
Derpiness.
Nerds.
I'll think of a D. We need to name it nerds. Nerd is like how would you say nerd in Japanese? Like otaku. Kind of otaku. Not cool people.
オタクとか。
かっこよくない人。
そうね。ちょっと変わり者みたいなね。
Yeah, that sounds about right for us. I'll think of a D.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for listening. This is CrossTalk signing off, bringing you English your way every week.
Keep listening and keep shining. Bye.
Bye.